The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Some very cool breaking news as we open the show. K-State shortstop Kalen Culpepper has been named a second-team All-American today by D1 Baseball. He becomes the first ever position player in K-State history to be named an All-American by D1 Baseball.
Very good.
According to K-State's press release here.
I think that would be because Craig Wilson, D1 Baseball didn't exist when Craig Wilson was a player.
I don't think it did.
Yeah. Gotta love the internet, baby.
Kalen Culpepper projected to go 32nd overall in the MLB draft, which is coming up here pretty soon, right?
It is All-Star Week.
Oh, it's All-Star Week. Okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. So it'll be 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
Two and a half.
Yeah, essentially. We're 2 weeks from the game. It's
2 weeks?
No,
is
you're right.
Weeks?
You're right. It's 3 weeks. There's that week between the 4th and then, yeah.
And I'll tell you why I know that.
Yeah.
And that is because
I'm ready for this week to be over.
The college football video game comes out on July 19th.
Yeah.
And that's in 3 weeks.
Okay. All right.
3 weeks and change. Actually, if you just download it or whatever, you actually get it at 11 p.m. on the 18th with the midnight release. Because it releases at midnight on the East Coast. Central Time Zone gets it at 11 p.m.
Dang.
For those that didn't know. And a big reminder, guys, I feel like not enough people are aware of this. If you are buying the college football video game that is set to come out in 3 weeks, you have to have the newest generation of console. You have to have a PS5 or you have to have an Xbox Series S or X. Or else you can't play it. It's not available on Xbox One and PS4. Welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. We'll take it to 6 o'clock. Royals get it done. I do have are the Royals doing okay at slated at 440? When I put that in, I was kind of in a different mindset.
You're going to ask me to actually go there today as I'm in a grumpy-ish mood?
You should. I think you should. They didn't sweep the Marlins.
Yeah.
Really, the Royals only had like 2 innings of offense through the whole 3-game series, but it was enough to win 2 games. In hour number 2, we will touch on the college football video game. Once again, we got some more details, but this time it does mention K-State in these details. It's our first mention of K-State in the game, other than the K-State flag that's on the cover of the deluxe edition of the game, which you can't actually buy a copy of. It's downloadable. You won't find it in stores. My top 100 TV themes continues at 540, 75 through 71. We're almost 30 themes in, creating more controversy. And by the way, guys, the Kansas City Chiefs are teaming up with Hallmark to make a movie. That's in hour number 2 as well. Guys, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means.
Another pointless AEW event. I'm kidding.
You're suspended for this segment.
Okay.
The microphone, your microphone is off for the whole segment.
All right.
Starting now. Cut it off. You're suspended. AEW Dynamite tonight from KeyBank Center in Buffalo, New York. The Owen Hart Foundation quarterfinals continue tonight. And don't forget, boys and girls, we have AEW Forbidden Door this Sunday, live on pay-per-view starting at 6:30 from UBS Arena, Long Island, New York. And, of course, the AEW World Championship on the line. Whose house? Swerve Strickland defends against Will Ospreay. But it is also K-State Online Day. Today we are joined by Derek Young from K-State Online. DY, I mentioned there just a few moments ago, I'm doing a countdown of my top 100 TV theme songs of all time. Do you have a favorite TV theme song?
Oh, you put me on the spot. I would need some to mention some, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, that's the one I like. But nothing crazy's coming to my mind right now. Maybe Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, That one of the best of all time. I think we could all agree on that. I was thinking like your era, like what you may have grown up with, like maybe like Full House, Saved by the Bell, Family Matters.
Yeah, I was a Prince of Bel-Air fan, a Family Matters fan. I'm trying to think. Remember Step by Step? I watched that a little bit.
Step by Step.
Wrong song.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, sing it for us then, Troy. Come
much
on.
different theme song.
You know the theme song. Let's sing it.
No, I'm just letting you know it wasn't that theme song.
Well, I don't know what it is then, so you should tell us what it is.
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head.
This guy.
Listen. Yeah, anyway. Never mind. Come on.
Now, yeah, you're talking Step by Step was in the 80s, right?
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, spoiler alert, no Step by Step on today's 5 that I'm going to be announcing a little bit later on. All right, DY, let's, well, first of all, probably also heard me mentioning, kind of previewing today's show and talking about the college football video game, and we got the EA Sports announcing its top 25 toughest places to play. Let's say 1990. AJ, don't turn your mic on. Just shake your head yes or no. You said yes. 1990 Step by Step. Troy, you're 0 for 2.
Yeah. Close enough.
First of all, do you plan to get the game, DY? I know you're not much of a gamer, but are you gonna get it?
Not a big gamer, but this is one I have to get.
You do have to have the latest generation of console. Remember that.
I know, and I'll be getting it, and I'll have the console. So, it'll probably be the only game I play, to be quite honest, but it'll be worth it.
Well, you should get an Xbox, and then we can add each other, and then find some other people at Xbox. We'll have an online dynasty. That was a thing back in the day, but I've never been a part of an online dynasty, so I'd like to do that. I'd like to try it out. Also, who plays video games together anymore? It's all online these days. But the EA Sports put out that list of the toughest places to play. You might be, I would say, because you used to cover, of course, Big Ten football, Iowa. You grew up an Ohio State fan. I'm sure you went to the Horseshoe a whole bunch of times. And then at K-State, you've been all around the Big 12. So you're qualified to talk about some of the toughest places to play in America, some that are maybe overrated. And I'm sure we've talked about this before. But to you, the places you have been to, what do you remember as being the toughest places to play, or like the loudest environments, craziest environments?
The loudest environments or the craziest environments that I've been to, and I'm talking from a consistent standpoint, both experienced and also seen on TV, because I think that's also a perspective that needs to be applied. I'll just say, interestingly enough, I would say the overrated ones, Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan is built in a way like it's like built downward, like almost below ground, where it like the noise gets trapped and it never feels as loud as it should be. So that's why I think that one's a little overrated, not just because of my bias. In Ohio State, it's just a lot of times those atmospheres are dull unless they're playing like a top 10 or top 15 opponent. And if your atmosphere is dependent upon the opponent, I just kind of devalue it a little bit. The same goes for Texas. I've never really been to Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium and thought, man, this place is nuts, right? Because obviously I think their atmospheres tend to be dependent on the opponent, and I think that eliminates it from contention. Big 12-wise, off the top of my head, just, rowdy, raucous environments. I mean, Kansas State's up there, obviously. But in terms of opponent, I think both Oklahoma schools would take the cake for me, with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And I'm not sure it's really that close. And then in the Big Ten, it's not close for me. The best environment, the most raucous and rowdy atmosphere is Penn State. And that place will be a zoo for just about any opponent. But then you bring in a name opponent, and I don't think it gets better than Penn State.
I'm a little surprised you said that Michigan is overrated. I had heard that Ohio Stadium was a little bit overrated. For Ohio State, I kind of throw them in the same category as Alabama, because I've heard also Alabama can be sometimes overrated. You think it's just because Ohio State's just been so good for so long that the fans just don't always have to bring the noise all the time? It's kind of kind of rare actually to get that kind of environment, depending on who they play, like Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider Ohio State and Alabama to be pretty good environments, but they've gotten stale over the years, probably because it's a fan base that has become spoiled. Those are two programs that just, for the, I don't know how long it's been, 15, 20 years, probably longer for Ohio State. I remember someone saying they're the only recession-proof program. Like, you could put any coach there in any time period, and they don't really have a drop-off. You remember drop-offs from Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Michigan, USC, LSU, Miami. Ohio State had that 1 year with Luke Fickell as interim coach, but besides that, in our lifetime, I mean, they're going to be a 10-win program at worst. So I think it is spoiled fan bases that take the cake. I will say this, even though I call Ohio State atmosphere dull for the most part and overrated, and I think to be a top atmosphere, I think it can't be dependent on opponent. But when they play Michigan, that might be the best environment every year when they play Michigan at home.
How many times have you been at Ohio Stadium and watched Michigan beat Ohio State?
Once, actually. I mean, it's a pretty tough ticket to get, to be honest. It wasn't like I was a student. I didn't go to Ohio State, and I didn't, cover Ohio State professionally. So that game, it's just a hot item. It's a hot ticket to get. But in 2006, when it was number 1 versus number 2, I had the luxury of being in that one. So that was pretty amazing to be at.
What's the most you've ever paid for an Ohio State ticket?
Man, a lot of mine I got from, I don't know if I paid once to get in that building, just because you know how in even to this day with K-State, you get connections too, to where it's probably, if you wanted to get a free ticket, you wouldn't have to search hard for it just from the buddy system. It was kind of like that for me when I was growing up with Ohio State.
The most money ever spent on a K-State football ticket was against Nebraska in 2010. I spent $100. I got in a bidding war, and Taylor Martinez ran all over K-State. That was the worst $100 I ever spent. We're talking with Derek Young from K-State Online. Let's go ahead and take our break, DY. When we come back, let's get into the man of the hour that just visited this past weekend. Once again, he hasn't committed yet. Let's ask DY about the details lately of Lincoln Cure, the 5-star tight end out of Goodland, Kansas, when we come back on The Game.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the game.
You, my friend, are in the game on News Radio KMAN.
Of the game.
The game continues. Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale, the suspended AJ Shaw for talking trash on AEW. You're still suspended. I'm not lifting it yet. And we're back with Derek Young from K-State Online. Very interesting weekend K-State football just had recruiting. In town once again was the Goodland 6'6" tight end in Lincoln Cure, the 5-star kid who is he went on 4 visits, KU, A&M, Oregon, and then the final stop was K-State. Quarterback Avery Johnson did a solid job of documenting the adventures. They went golfing along with Chris Kleiman and Matt Wells, and then Avery is doing a dance on TikTok, and who jumps into the fun? Lincoln Cure. So the first question is, DY, that TikTok video of Avery dancing, Lincoln Cure jumps in. What does that mean for KU, Oregon, and Texas A&M? I can't imagine that's exactly good news.
I don't know a whole lot about TikTok, and I try to steer clear from it. I don't know if the TikTok video in itself is a sign of anything to come, but clearly, Avery Johnson did a great job as a host. It was a great selection. There's nobody else that was ever going to host him, right? It was always going to be Avery Johnson. He's a tight end. It makes sense to do with the quarterback, the in-state kid, the guy that was in his shoes, 2 years ago. So it was a match made in heaven. I think it went super well. TikTok video aside, I think there's a lot of reason to be, I would say, hopeful about what is to come.
Well, he didn't dance on TikTok with Jalen Daniels. He didn't dance with Dylan Gabriel, and then whoever the jabroni is for Texas A&M.
Connor Weigman. Yep.
Connor Weigman. Good for you to know that off the top of your head. I don't. Does that name? Why does that name? Why do you know that name? Let's ask that question.
I think he was a top 5 or top 10 quarterback in his class too.
Oh, okay.
I assume he's from Texas. And Colin Klein being there, I think I've just been, passively kind of observing what might happen this year for Texas A&M. I mean, first year coaching staff, but for some reason, it surprises me a little that there's some high expectations in College Station this year.
So I mentioned the golfing trip out to Colbert Hills, and it was just a star-studded afternoon this past Friday for those gentlemen. When you're recruiting a 5-star kid, do you let him win in golf?
I wouldn't. I don't know. I think you let the competitive juices flow.
Okay.
First and foremost, I think it's a loser move to let him win. If someone let me win, I would probably not take it well or think it was kind of silly. Myself in particular, not a huge golfer, so wouldn't have to worry about it. I would have got my butt kicked anyway.
Look, Avery could try to throw a game, and he's still blasting it down the fairway, and he's going to eagle a couple of holes. I'm sure there were multiple times through that outing that guys were going for course records and in eagles, and I'm sure it was a dominant effort by all 4.
He's lucky he didn't have to golf against Courtney Messingham. He might be the best golfer in Manhattan.
That's actually, I've heard rumors about that.
Yes.
Our IT guy, Paul, golfs with Courtney Messingham once in a while, and I hear those kind of stories.
Yeah. Everyone I talked to that's ever seen him or played with him on the golf course would echo that sentiment. And he's still around Manhattan, I believe. So
he is. Did stick around after being let go by Chris Kleiman a few years ago. I think he built a house out here. I think that's the story I heard. He built a house. And
he did spend a year at Illinois as an analyst too, I believe.
Speaking with Derek Young from K-State Online. So the serious question, I know you said that you don't know if the TikTok video did one thing or another for Lincoln Cure, but you have said many times on this show the consistent message is your gut feeling still tells you that Lincoln is leaning towards K-State. Has that changed?
It has not. And you could take the order that he made those visits and reverse it, and that's how I think the order is in his recruitment, being number 1, Kansas State, number 2, Oregon, number 3, Texas A&M, and number 4, KU.
Well, let me ask this. Has Lincoln handled this recruiting process like on social media? Like guys will tweet out like, oh, had a great visit here, had a great visit there. Has he, for the most part, kind of kept it neutral among the 4, or has it been favoring K-State?
No, he's kept it neutral. And to be honest, I've said this before, and I said this months ago, and it has carried out this way the ensuing months thereafter, is that he's conducted his recruitment almost to a T, identical to Avery Johnson, being that he went through the process, visited a bunch of schools, even before the official started, right? He visited Penn State, Notre Dame, a few others that, I think Ole Miss or something like that. But at the end, then he narrows it down to 3 or 4 schools when June happens. But all along, everyone's like, Kansas State's probably in the lead. They're doing well, and they're on the path to landing him. But he'd take those official visits, and some of the people that probably think they're more connected than they are start to say, oh, maybe A&M's making momentum, maybe Oregon's making momentum. But all along, it's still, has been consistently K-State still, if you ask the right people. But K-State's the last visit. They were the last visit for Avery. And then you wait a week or two, boom, K-State's the pick. I expect it to go very similar to how we saw it with Avery Johnson. So that's kind of how I see it. And Avery Johnson's other official visits were to Oregon and Washington. Oregon again here for Lincoln Cure, plus A&M And Kansas, I just don't see it. I see it playing out very similarly, pretty much the same way.
There was that fake account that said Lincoln Kure is committed to K-State. That was a fake account. And so Lincoln is not committed anywhere. His decision is still pending. Meanwhile, DY, for the 2025 class, the Cats are now in double digits. It wasn't long ago where K-State really hit a hot streak with these camps and visits, really big groups of visits at the same time. And I think it was a stretch of 7 commits in 10 days for the class of 2025. Now, it is pretty consistently across the board 3 stars. Asking you the question just simply here, how well is K-State football doing in recruiting for 25?
Just a solid job, and has a chance to probably be perhaps a little bit more than solid just because of what is still out there to land as well. You landed a lot of the guys that you pinpointed and said, we really want these dudes, and they still got them, basically 10 at this point. And you still have the Brock Keast of the world out there, Sean Hammerbeck, Cade Peterzak, Lincoln Kure, Montario Elston. Sure, we're going to miss a few. They just sent out 2 new offers again. Here to R.J. Collins, who's a safety prospect out of Missouri, and then a lineman out of South Dakota, and Micah Hake. So, no, people are going to look at star rankings a little bit here and there. I get it, and be like, this one's falling short. But they're getting guys that they want, guys that still have a chance to rise up the rankings, some that have yet to be evaluated. Like JoJo Scott, for example. I think that's a quarterback that they really, really like. And they landed, right, out of Florida. He has not necessarily been evaluated yet on 3. That could be a guy that all of a sudden when the ranking pops, it's a lot higher than anyone is anticipating. He has a great offer sheet. He was offered by Wisconsin and Nebraska just in the last month. A wanted man, he's going to K-State. So in terms of a ranking perspective, if that's how you're going to grade it and perceive this class, I understand. But if you're going to do that, you might want to wait a little bit because there is still a few 4-star targets out there that K-State is pursuing. They have a few committed that could still get there. And obviously they have the 5-star Lincoln Kure where they're waiting a decision on as well.
All right, DY, we've got a couple of more minutes to squeeze in a couple of questions. Outside of the recruiting, talk a little hoops here because the Big 12 announced today that tomorrow morning they're going to announce the conference schedules for Big 12 men's and women's basketball. And, of course, the Big 12 is adding 4 more programs this year. Gyms that you want to visit, gyms you don't want to visit again. What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? Just as a member of the media going on a road trip in 2024 or 25.
Well, Arizona's a basketball school, right? So it'd be cool to go to that one. I think that makes a lot of sense. Don't want to go to again. Man, can Hilton Coliseum count? I really don't like going there. I know they're a Big 8 team, but I'd rather not go there. Haven't been to UCF, not really pining to go. I thought the Cincinnati's gym was kind of cool, so I won't hate on that one either. I probably still need to go to BYU. I've heard good things about the Marriott Center. We're going to Boulder in football. I don't know if I have a burning desire to go to Boulder in basketball. For ones I don't want to go to again, Iowa State. I just don't like Hilton Coliseum. TCU, it's a dull atmosphere. Gallagher-Iba, it's a weird court. I don't really have a problem with it. It's unique, but again, that's another dull atmosphere. Obviously, they haven't been good in a while, but that's been a rough place to play. And I always like playing or going to game Texas Tech. That's a really good atmosphere.
All right, DY, to wrap up, we'll want to have a show next Wednesday. So what are your 4th of July plans?
I don't have any yet, I don't think. I'll probably be cooking out somewhere.
Well, there's a lot of stuff happening in our area. Boomtown
right.
Out east, Freedom Fest out west.
The Star Spangled Spectacular downtown at the City Park.
You have your options. I actually kind of want to – I've never done Freedom Fest in Junction City. Mm-hmm. So I think I might have to try it this year if Lindsay's up for it. All right, DY. Go ahead.
Guy.
What's that?
I'm not a big fireworks guy. I don't know.
I don't like buying fireworks anymore. I'm cool with watching everybody else light their stuff off. Let's celebrate freedom. I'm not a fan of fireworks going off at 11 p.m. 6 days before the 4th of July. That's what I don't like.
That's fair.
All right, DY, we'll let you go. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Going through DY's list, the realization that there are only 5 places in the now-to-be Big 12 that I've not called a game from.
Really?
Make that 6. Got to throw in BYU.
It's almost half the conference.
No, BYU. Yeah, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, Gallagher-Iba. Never did a game at Gallagher-Iba. Houston and Baylor. Every other place in the conference I've called a game at. Including an NCAA game at Arizona.
Every gym I visited for a K-State game, I think all of them but one are now outside of the Big 12. They've left the Big. Because I've been to Nebraska, I've been to Texas A&M, I've been to Oklahoma. I've never been to Oklahoma State. I haven't been to very many places.
Yeah, Gallagher-Iba is the one place out of the traditional Big 8 schools that I never have gotten to for a game.
What was the best media setup when you visited a Power as the voice of Northern Colorado that had just the best setup?
Best setup.
For you, not just talking about media, just you personally.
Right. That's a great question because everything was so varied, in terms of the different locations and the like, and when you dealt with Hollywood seating in some places and some different approaches to how they had you set.
Because some broadcasters, like a lot of places, you'll be courtside next to your bench potentially, or you could be up high like, Cameron Indoor. They'll even put the TV guys up there.
Right. Or even because there was overflow needed when I called a game here. Had to be at the top of Bramlage because they had the women's game before it. And so it forced us up top. Boy, that is a tremendous question. Honestly, Iowa State is a good location. I did like Oklahoma. You were right there by the bench.
The Lloyd Noble. Was there a place that just sucked?
A place that just absolutely sucked? Would you believe Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas is a bad venue? All the way up the side.
Is that UNLV?
Yeah, that's UNLV.
Okay, I didn't know if that was it. Okay.
All the way up the side and at one end.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, you're kind of from the corner, and some of the insulation from the roof. It was funny because literally some stuff from the roof came trickling down during the course of the broadcast onto fans beneath us. You're sitting there trying to figure out where in the heck is this.
Well, did I ever tell you the story?
It's a badly maintained arena.
When I was at the Garden for the NCAA tournament, K-State's about to play Florida Atlantic. Fortunately, they lost that game. But, our friends John Kurtz and Cole Manbeck, a light in the rafters of the Garden broke, and the hot glass fell on them, or next to them. Talk about a hazard. Don't plan on getting burned by a light bulb when you're in Madison Square Garden. They ended up having to move people. Actually, I think they got better seats.
Oh, boy.
Because of that. Let's take a break. Still to come in hour number 2. K-State did get some love today from EA Sports when it comes to the new college football video game. Chiefs are making a movie. My top 100 TV theme songs of all time continue 75 through 71. But when we come back, it's a good time to ask once again. When I put this on the list, it was not a good day for the Royals. They got a lot better in that bottom of the 8th inning. Are the Royals doing okay? That's next with Troy on The Game.
Your home for K-State sports.
Thompson at the goal line. He's in again. 4th rushing touchdown of the game for Skylar Thompson.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Some more K-State baseball news. The Batcats land a catcher out of the transfer portal just a few moments ago. This young man did tweet this out, that the next chapter for Keegan O'Connor is K-State baseball. He was a catcher for Quinnipiac and, had himself a nice season. Actually, 2 straight seasons he's had great years. Last year he was named first team All-MAAC. In this past year for Quinnipiac, Keegan O'Connor, who's going to take over most likely for Rafael Pelletier, this past season hit .325. For his career, he's hitting .321.
The only thing I knew about Quinnipiac prior to that was that they did polls on like political stuff. I did not know they had a baseball team.
They have a baseball team. They have sports, yeah. They have athletics at Quinnipiac, that private school.
They have uniforms and everything.
They have uniforms. They have gloves, bats, cleats. Yeah, they have a.
So you mean to tell me they have everything?
We have uniforms and everything at Major League Reference. Thank you, Jake Taylor.
Anybody know what state Quinnipiac is in?
Massachusetts.
Incorrect.
Connecticut.
Connecticut is correct. Hamden, Connecticut is where Quinnipiac is, a private university. And the average cost after financial aid is $37,000 a year. Kind of a high acceptance rate, in my opinion, for a
Northeast school.
For a private Northeast school. 84%. Isn't that pretty high?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Now they got those K-State numbers. Okay. From K-State baseball, which, by the way, if you didn't hear the news, really cool news that K-State's sophomore, Caitlin Culpepper, was named a second-team All-American today by D1 Baseball. He will be, hopefully, a first-round draft pick coming up here in a few weeks. Meanwhile, Troy, let's talk about the Kansas City Royals for just a moment. They do win today. Mm-hmm. Big eighth inning. Mm-hmm. They take 2 out of 3 against the Miami Marlins, who's terrible.
They are.
Kansas City, now as we are just over the halfway point of the Major League Baseball season, is 6 games above 500. Troy, the Royals doing okay.
The Royals are...
This is the longest you've had to think about the answer to this question.
Yeah, because they are mediocre at this point. Mediocre to bad, given what the offense is doing. And I'm willing to give them the mediocre aspect for the moment. And it's tough to do it given that the pitching has been outstanding through these first 3 games of the series. They allowed literally 3 runs in 3 games. The fact that the offense last night could not muster anything. Oh, and by the way, 4 runs. The 2 runs that scored last night were 2 of the softest, weakest runs that were going to score. Literally a liner that a shortstop isn't able to handle and be able to get a guy out at first base allows a run to score. And a liner off the pitcher who then throws wildly to first base and allows a run to score. And they don't have the offense to overcome it.
Sorry to interrupt there. I was going to kind of make a historical reference. Would you say this season feels a lot like 2003?
Oh, I've had that thought plenty of times.
In that they got off to such a great start, and then the rest of the season was kind of like they're up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, it's very much the Tony Pena year, yes.
It was very close, was the Royals, as you mentioned, giving up 3 runs, going 1-2 against the Miami Marlins. A bad team. Mm-hmm. Kansas City offensively won this series because of 2 innings. 2 of the 27 innings they played, they had good offense. The other 25 wasn't too great.
Right.
As in pretty much no runs scored. Barely getting any hits.
I mean, the Marlins pitching staff is hysterically bad. But it's funny because I'm listening to the game while I'm driving down to the station, and Denny Matthews talks about how their bullpen has actually been the one thing that's been strong for them. And Brazoban goes out there today and he gives up 5 runs in the 8th inning and they lose. I mean, they're calling guys up. I mean, they had a guy up there today making his big league debut, if I'm not mistaken.
They did.
And Roderick Munoz is a rookie. He pitched on Monday night. I mean, the Royals are probably not feeling so great now going into Cleveland after barely scraping by against the Marlins.
How many games does Kansas City win against Cleveland this weekend? 4-game series, right?
Right now, I'm hopeful for 2. I'm fearful for 1.
I think they could split, potentially. Although
not the way this offense is playing. I really, really don't see it right now unless this offense caught fire today with that 8th inning.
With the win, the Royals are now 44-38. The Marlins dropped to 28-52. Kansas City is hold on just a second here. Got to go to another page. But Kansas City right now still third in the American League Central, 9.5 back of Cleveland.
Not ideal to be in that position going into the first day of July soon. If you can sweep them, which again I know Troy's going to say that's wishful thinking, you're 5.5 out, but it's not going to happen. Right now, if you're the Royals, you're looking to try to get a wild card spot. I think they're tied for the 3rd wild card spot as of today's game, which is fine. I mean, you get in the playoffs, you get in the playoffs. But I think looking at a division title right now, I think that's out of the question. I don't think they're catching Cleveland unless they have a historic collapse. And that's pretty difficult in this era where you have expanded playoffs with 3 teams getting in as wild cards, and it's easier to win divisions now.
Today was the second time in the last 14 games the Royals scored more than 4 runs.
That's why I really, really hesitate to even put anything positive into this weekend with Cleveland.
All right, let's take a timeout. We'll finish hour 1 of the game when we come back. News Radio KMAN.
I started the Maine Frisbee Golf Club at Cornell.
The Game.
This is madness.
News Radio KMAN.
Something that we didn't cover in our hockey talk yesterday that I wanted to mention. I've loved the celebration videos I've seen after the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup. They basically pulled an all-nighter. They're at 7 in the morning out at some bar drinking with the Stanley Cup. They're pouring beer on people walking by. Or they're voluntarily trying to drink out of the cup. But they're pouring it from the balcony, the 2nd floor balcony. But I think my favorite story from the Panthers celebration of winning the Stanley Cup is the captain. I forget his name. But he's close with his neighbors. He woke his neighbors up at 4 a.m. and took it over to their house so they could have a moment with the Stanley Cup.
Nice. Hey, we just got back in town. How you doing?
All right, that'll wrap up hour 1 of the game. Hour number 2, it is stat programming. Good news for the Cats when it comes to the new college football video game. I was worried that there wasn't going to be enough effort put into how the Cats, their unique environment and our unique fan base, would be represented and portrayed in the college football video game. The Chiefs are making a movie, top 10, top 100 TV theme songs. It's all coming up. Hour 2 of the game coming up next. Here comes CBS News.